Welcome back to the Joe Mac podcast. I have a very, very special guest. She is a technical director. She's a broadcast professional, and she just happens to be one of my two godmothers.
I'm number one.
Lillian Pontis. So happy to be with you. Thank you so much for joining me from the East Coast.
That's right. Coming from Pittsburgh.
Coming from Pittsburgh.
How are you, Joe Mac?
Oh, fantastic. I've been looking forward to this and looking forward to documenting and finally getting kind of like a chronological order of your work history pertaining to the media industry. And currently, your current title is technical director. Can you get into that a little bit and just kind of give the viewer a kind of snapshot of your profession?
Yes, so technical director is probably the high end of the different seats that I will sit in at any of the 3 or 4 broadcast facilities where I work, or even what we call narrowcast facilities. I'm on my 22nd year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, almost as many with the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm one of several technical directors for Pitt. They just installed 3 spectacular control rooms. When they joined the ACC, they installed 3 spectacular control rooms and had to train a significant number of us who had always worked for them before to broadcast any number of sporting events and even some non-sporting events. There's certain corporate events that take place, even graduation, which has been postponed or canceled for this year. And that's pretty much my responsibility over at Pitt, the University of Pittsburgh. The Steelers, I'll sit in different chairs, put on different hats. The same with the Pirates. I'm starting my 5th season with the Pirates.
Okay.
And then there are 4 or 5 clients that I work with independently, either through the convention center or through what we call narrowcasts for awards shows or broadcasts for corporations. As well as my favorite thing right now, honestly, because I'm at the end of my career. It's just a matter of years before I plan to retire. And Uncle Bob and I will travel the world. We'll come and visit you all the time. My favorite thing right now is I'm considered a resident artist at a performing arts school out here, Lincoln Park Performing Arts School. It's tied to Lincoln Park's Performing Arts Center, and they've got a remarkable television studio, control room, recording studio, and audio sweetening room that our students have access to. And being able to pass on some of the stuff I've done in the last 42 years to students who really want to absorb it. They're sponges. They want to learn this stuff and you can't, they really are sponges. I can't feed them enough without them saying, let me put my hands on the equipment. Let me try this. Let me create a show. Let me create a podcast. Let's stream this information that we just got from local media, that kind of thing. And so that's it right now. That's it in a nutshell for what I'm currently doing.
Okay, gotcha. So just so I got it correct, for the past 22 years, you've been involved with the Steelers, the Pirates, and the University of Pittsburgh primarily. Those are kind of the 3.
Those are my 3 big clients.
Those are 3 big clients. Okay, and then and so those responsibilities entail the basically the production of what we see on television.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The majority of what I'm responsible for is what you see in the bowl, what you'll see on what some people know as the Jumbotron.
The Jumbotron.
It is actually just, yes, Jumbotron is not even in business anymore, but everyone calls those big boards Jumbotrons. It's like calling everybody spa a jacuzzi, it's a brand name.
Yeah.
But what we send to the big boards, or what we can send to the trucks so that you guys see it at home. There are lots of rules and regulations based on demographics, based on audience, based on whether we're representing the home team, the away team, how much of what I do is seen at home as opposed to how much of what I do and what we do in our control room is seen by the people who paid to be in those arenas.
I see. Very good. So essentially, you're responsible for what's going on in real life at that moment in that stadium.
Yeah,
during
and
that game.
It's crazy because there's no room for error. Even replays, for example, we have replay operators with 6, 8, 10 different angles for a replay, and that choice of that angle has to be made within 1 to 2 seconds at the most to determine the outcome of a coach's challenge, for example, to get the crowd pumped up. So there isn't room for error. You push the wrong button and everybody sees it and you feel horrible for it. So we go out of our ways to make sure that doesn't happen whenever possible.
Gotcha. And so you're also responsible for the audience members when they're doing dances and doing the kiss cam, and you're making sure that everything's timed right and presented correctly.
Yeah, we have to entertain the crowd, keep the crowd involved in what's going on, especially when it's between action. For football, for example, it's a 60-minute football game, but we're literally in our seats for 9+ hours because there's several hours that we're preparing before gates even open. As soon as gates open, then we have to entertain, and there's information we have to put out there for their safety. There's information we choose to put out there to entertain them. There's educational stuff we want to put out there, players arriving, player stats, who might be injured. And then pregame, then the game actually starts. But remember, when you're watching a football game, it's 3 hours of watching a football game, and there's only 1 hour, that's 60 minutes, that's actually live action. The rest we have to fill with content. You mentioned Kiss Cam and entertainment like that. Over at the Pirates, I haven't been with them that long, but they're a remarkable crew. I have to tell you, we got a spreadsheet of lots of information in the off season in preparation for what games and what activities we'll have for the crowd between innings, for example, sometimes even between pitches. If there's a new pitcher warming up, sometimes we have to go to in-game entertainment. And that's really pretty remarkable. I did not have any idea until this year when I read some of the Major League Baseball spreadsheets and some of their stats, how highly regarded Pittsburgh Pirates game day broadcasts were. Apparently, from an entertainment standpoint, they are significantly higher than any other Major League Baseball team. And, of course, most of them, I believe all the minor league teams. So they put out a good show. They entertain you even. Listen, if there's a rain delay, we got to keep you guys tuned in, right?
Right.
Got to keep you in the stadium at the very least. We have to keep you at the park.
Right. That sounds pretty demanding.
It can be.
Yeah.
It's only really demanding and stressful if you're not with a good crew. I have worked in broadcast television. I've even been on camera. When you're not with a crew that knows what they're doing, or you're not with news people that know what they're doing, that's when the stress comes in. If you're working with really top professionals, you feel a comfort zone. If you're working alongside people, even if it's live television, you feel you're kind of in a comfort zone because they know what they're doing.
What do you like most about what you do?
Well, I mean, for most of my life, I really, really did enjoy the adrenaline of live television and live broadcasting. But in recent years, it's been 15 years now, there's a performing arts school that was constructed out here by me in the northwest part of the Pittsburgh suburbs, Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center. And it's tied to a performing arts high school. And they have state-of-the-art equipment there, a television studio, control room, audio recording studio, and sweetening facility, as well as 2 remarkable labs, a design lab and a media lab for students to edit or create their own websites or their own logos to market various entities of the center and the school. And since I've been spending time there, I think I'd say that's my favorite part of my work. I like that interaction with the students.
Okay. And very good. So basically, now you talked about the adrenaline of live TV. What does that mean? I mean, do you still get that adrenaline rush, or is it, you said 15 years, it's kind of like, okay,
No,
day in
you
the
still
office.
get it. The beginning of each season,
Okay.
when
Okay.
you're never completely sure, when you haven't settled into that safety zone.
Right.
Maybe halfway through a football season, that adrenaline will go away. But then something else can happen. Something we can be thrown into a circumstance where your adrenaline kicks in. I mean, honestly, I'm sad to say the first thing that came to my mind is in recent years, the Tree of Life Synagogue. Was here in Pittsburgh, was the scene of a mass shooting. And we were virtually preparing for University of Pittsburgh football game, and then the next day a home Steelers game. And our goal and our responsibility was to take the minds off of the community of Pittsburgh, to make sure they knew we had their backs. We could give them an hour's worth of entertainment, but we also were disseminating an awful lot of information that benefited our city and our community. And Pittsburgh was really strong.
Wow.
So sometimes your adrenaline kicks in because there's a need to benefit that community. That kind of thing is happening right now because of coronavirus.
Gotcha. Now, I mean, what led up to you securing the current position that you have? I mean, what's the history behind it?
I went to college and studied I have a degree in communication arts and a degree in political science, and then just a handful of credits towards a broadcast law degree. But while I was doing that, I was hired at the local CBS affiliate where I went to college. And I had the luxury. I didn't realize how beneficial it was until years later.
Where was college?
But at Gannon University, a small Catholic university in Erie, Pennsylvania. And they had a very high ranking in broadcast television in their communication arts program. At the time, this is in the 70s, where there were very little women in the profession, but there weren't a lot of opportunities to study it. So when I did a little bit of research and found out that that was one of the top schools, and that it was so small that you got lots of hands-on time with the equipment. Even as a sophomore and first semester junior, there was a lot of time I got to spend in a television studio and in a control room. And that segued right into a job for the CBS affiliate in Erie right after graduation. A couple years later, I went out to LA and secured work out there. And I believe it was easier for me to find work as a 23-year-old because I had had a good deal of hands-on experience from a small school like that. I was out there and I loved my work out there. I worked on a lot of television shows, a lot of music videos, worked with a lot of famous people, and worked alongside some really, really great masters. There were people that mentored us, some of us new folk there. And many of us still attribute our careers to that little microcosm of education we got at the Post Group in Hollywood. When it came time to raise our children, we didn't want to continue living out in Hollywood and raise them there. So we came back to this area. And one of my clients out there was a company called Prime Ticket, which then became Fox Sports, which is now AT&T Sports Network. And they helped set me up with some interviews and some work at Fox Sports and Fox here in Pittsburgh that parlayed into time with the Steelers and the University of Pittsburgh, and the rest is, all these years later, still being able to be part of it.
Well, it looks like you could have been a movie star out in Los Angeles. I mean, it's never too late to come back to the West Coast out here with and give it a shot. I'm surprised
Joe,
that didn't.
I don't envy you. I did do a little bit of television, and I did do a little bit of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think live television was hard. As a weather girl, it was really hard. We didn't have scripts. We didn't even have green screening. Didn't even exist. Green and blue screening didn't exist. There were magnetic suns and magnetic arrows that I put on the board behind me when I did the weather. I don't envy you. I think it's really stressful. I'm glad I landed behind the scenes.
is your we were talking earlier, so we were kind of talking before this. How would you describe how things have changed between? So we're kind of talking about it now. How have things changed between then and now, as far as the formatting is concerned?
Yes, you and I have talked about this before. It's probably been a little over 5 years that history in our business was made when the majority of people, for the first time ever, were watching television shows not on a television. You've got your laptops, you've got your desktops, you've got your phones, tablets. There are people who watch television shows on their watches.
Yeah.
And that has significantly changed. Social media platforms and streaming services has significantly changed how we monitor ratings, how demographics have changed, how long someone would be interested in a particular television show. We now do video vignettes, and on YouTube, there isn't anybody who really will sit through half-hour YouTube. They'll sit through webisodes or podcasts that are 15 minutes or shorter. Someone of a younger demographics, that 18 to 25 demographics, that window is 6 to 8 minutes. So now we put together little segments like that for a television show. So the segments can stream separately or can be viewed on any device or through any streaming platform separately, and you're not stuck to a television for fear you're going to miss something if you walk away from a half-hour sitcom or an hour-long serial. Law and Order, I worked on the pilot for Law and Order back in 1990. And the goal was to make sure we had people sitting down in front of that television for the full hour that pilot was on NBC. That's not the case anymore. You don't have to worry about that. You can freeze it and go do whatever you want and come back in, or you can watch an entire season on a weekend.
So it's fair to say that you're responsible for a percentage of people getting hooked on television.
Oh gosh, a very, very small,
and staying hooked, staying tuned in. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, that's some very good insight. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And so, wow, 6 to 8 minutes is kind of the average. That's the maximum length that.
For demographics of someone
for the new
18
demographic.
to 24.
18 to 24. Okay, wow.
It's shorter, obviously, the younger the demographics is. Think about Sesame Street. On Sesame Street, the count only is on for maybe a 2-minute segment. Then they go back to the street, Sesame Street, to introduce us to something other than numbers, and that's because the younger you are, the shorter that attention span and that time frame can be.
Wow. What advice would you give to somebody, or insights, somebody that's looking to get into broadcasting, in particular sports, in particular live events, such as the current position that you're in?
Yeah, I think I'm asked that question pretty regularly, and I do get a number of people saying, "Is there somebody you can put me in touch with?" I really believe our business is a matter of opportunity, sometimes being at the right place at the right time. But I can be honest with you. I remember a theater teacher over at Lincoln Park saying several years ago to his students, and he's a very accomplished actor. He's done a remarkable amount of stage work. And I remember hearing him tell his seniors before they were heading out to colleges or to auditions and so on, that the best advice he could give them was to really know what they were doing and to show up on time. And he said you'd be amazed at be prepared and be on time, and you'd be amazed at how far ahead of so many other people you'll be. And that's common sense for any job you're seeking or any opportunity you're seeking.
Wow. Be prepared and be on time. Sounds like great advice.
It's pretty common sense, but sometimes we get so caught up in the minutia of that particular job that you don't think about that basic stuff.
Very good. Very good. Anything else that we should discuss before we wrap this up? Anything else for the viewer that people that are watching this right now that are thinking, hey, that sounds interesting. I'd like to learn more, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the place to start is to go to, there are various sites that will allow you to search the type of work you're really interested in when it comes to broadcasting. Mm-hmm. Because there are some people who just want to be involved in pre-production, which is the hiring of cast and crew, or the writing of a screenplay, or the writing of a script, or a public service announcement. There are some people who have that skill. Mm-hmm. And there are some people who want to be involved in the second stage, setup and rehearsal. If you know that's your niche, I say find that niche, but learn everything you can in that niche. If your niche, if that adrenaline rush for you is in live television and production, or what we call look live, something that is recorded and then has a quick turnaround, and then appears to be live. If you're interested in that, then learn all aspects. Every seat in a control room, every position in the studio itself, even on camera especially. Learn all of those to find where you best fit, but also where you can get your foot in the door, be plugged in, and then offer the fact that those other positions and those other jobs. And then the fourth stage is post-production. The post group where I worked in California was all special effects editing and all post work. If you're a computer guy, if you're really, really into doing that kind of stuff, and that's your niche, just learn everything you can on several different operating programs or several different editing formats. And then try and get your foot in the door, yeah.
Very good, very good. What are your thoughts on the Joe Mac podcast?
Joe Mac podcast is really coming along. I'm impressed. There are a couple of things, yes. When we're off camera, there are a couple of pointers I'm comfortable giving you. But even the podcast I just recently saw you do with Jaron, I found myself realizing the two of you are onto something when you're working on a serial. He called it a soap opera, but a series like that. Those are really taking off again. There are people who thought the serial television was gone and dead, and it's not anymore. With streaming platforms, that's all the majority of people your age, your demographics, men and women, or younger, are interested in. And I think he was onto something when he said they're not dead. You just won't be watching them in the middle of the afternoon where all the commercials were for soap products. That's where the name came from. You're actually choosing when you're going to watch that serial. And I bet Jaron won't have you doing half-hour shows either. I bet they'll be broken up.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Any closing remarks?
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh.
I hope I talk your ear off.
It was my pleasure. And I've been looking forward to it for a while, and I'm sure this won't be the last time. I'd be happy to have you on again.
Yeah, let's follow up. Maybe we can even do this from one of the control rooms.
That would be spectacular. Yeah. That would be fantastic.
We can look into that when we get back into those control rooms. Nobody's allowed in for a while now.
And
Come
Lily.
on, baseball. Let's get started. Yeah. The season opener was supposed to be yesterday.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We don't know when it's going to be now.
Are you enjoying your time off?
Yeah. I mean, I'm working some from home. I'm definitely in touch with the students, and we're teaching from home, preparing for the NFL draft. There's an amount of stuff like we can do from here, from our individual homes. But, yeah, Uncle Bob and I are hiking some. We're taking the dog out. We're touching base with your cousins. And let's see which one of your cousins checks this out first.
I guess we'll see.
Joe Mac. Good luck, man.
Lillian Pontis, Godmother, Aunt. So many titles, can't name them all.
I love you, Joe. I wish you the best. I think you're going places.
I think that this interview is going to take us both places.
We'll see. Listen, my goal is just to have more people view this episode of Joe Mac podcast than any other. Let's keep your numbers going up.
Thank you so much. Love you.
I love you too.